Hi there, it's Marzena. It is time to make my second mermaid. I was happy to see that you liked the last creepy one, so I hope that you will also like this cuter version. This figurine will be a birthday gift to my sister, so I hope she will like it as well. So, what are we waiting for? Let's dive in! As I said in my last video, Laguna Blue is an obvious choice when you are planning to do a mermaid doll, because she already has some characteristic features in her sculpt. Her cutesy face didn't suit my previous creepy concept, but this time I am aiming for something sweeter, so she will be perfect. I started, as always, by preparing the base. I cut the doll's hair as short as possible. I heated up her head to be able to remove it from the body without damaging the neckpack. Then I removed melted glue and the hair plugs from inside. And when the head was properly bald, I removed her factory paint with a cotton pad soaked in a pure acetone. When she was finally clean, I noticed some marks on her face. They were clearly a factory defect, and there were nothing I could do about them, so I just hope that they won't ruin the face-up. It was time for some head shrinking. I am addicted to this process. After reattaching the shrunken head to the body, I had to abandon this project because I wanted to finish my creepy mermaid first. And then I needed to focus on studying. I was studying really hard. Oh, learning process. Those skills won't learn themselves.
A ty nie miałeś robić lali?
But finally I found time to return to this faceless lady. I sprayed her 3 times with Mr. Super Clear Matte Varnish, and I started the face up with some no-nos. First, I wanted to neutralize her blue skin with red pastels, but it looked blotchy and uneven. Then I thought, let's go with those blue tones, and tried to give her a dark blue shading. Oh, what a disaster that idea was. Finally, I settled down with a delicate blushing and shading in a skin color. After another layer of MSC, I darkened the shadows and gave some subtle pink blushing to her cheeks, lips and nose. I am always doing face-ups in this order. First, shading and blushing with soft pastels. Then, sketching the features with watercolor pencils with just a smidge of pastels here and there. And last but not least, the final touch-ups with acrylic paints. I tried gouaches once, but I did not like them. You can see it in the videos, but I'm always planning ahead how I want a doll's face expression to look like. Do I want her to look straight ahead, to the left or right, down or up, eyelids more closed or opened? Do I want her to look surprised, sad or happy? And I would never start the face up without a clear idea of how the doll pose would look like. Sometimes I am sketching a character on paper first, and sometimes it is just in my head, but I never jump into the project unprepared. Coming up with a design is a big part of the creative process, especially when you are doing OCs. You need to do a lot of brainstorming, research on the topic you choose. You need to find some references and combine the elements together so they will create a full character. With figurines, paintings or sculptures, you need to figure out the best working pose. The list goes on and on. That is why it is very important to not copy someone's design when we feel inspired by some artwork. As an art lover, I do follow a lot of great creators on YouTube and other social media platforms. And I can tell when I'm seeing some of those artists' design or style being copied by someone else. Lately, I even stumble upon my own work being copied without my permission. Remember, there is a line between being inspired by someone and copying someone. It is very heartwarming to inspire others to try out a hobby, a medium, technique, or material, but it is really disrespectful to just take somebody's design and just copy it without the permission. An original character design is an intellectual property of the original creator, and this is not some imaginary term. Intellectual property is a valid term, and you can even get yourself into trouble by copying someone else's work. If you want to use someone's design because you think it is cool, you need to ask for permission. And if the artist will say no, you need to respect that, because this artist worked hard on this design and it belongs to him or her. I am personally trying really hard to make my figurines as unique as I can. I love seeing some fan arts of them, but I do not give permission to just copy my designs in the same medium. What I wish I could inspire you to do is being creative, and there is nothing creative in copying. This is how her new face turned out. I just needed to add gloss to her eyes and lips, and the face up was done. Time for her body. I rubbed the head like a candy to protect the face up. I used micromotor and milling cutter to sand down plastic seams, panties, and factory markings. I smoothed everything with sanding buffer and wiped the whole body with wet tissue. Then I cut off the lower legs. She won't be needing them anymore. I drilled the holes in both knees and glued the thick bendable wire inside. Those wires braided together will be the core of the tail. I covered the core with a hot Warbler thermoplastic scraps, creating the base of the tail. Oh, did I mention? I based this mermaid on a lionfish, so there were a lot of spikes to do. Lionfish have pretty much transparent fins with visible rays. I'm making those rays by covering pieces of wire with Warbler and attaching them to the tail one by one. I reinforced them with more Warbler. By reheating the rays of the fins, I could reshape them as I wanted. Then I created the outer layer from one big piece of Warbler pearly art. I marked where I wanted the rest of the rays and spikes to be attached and drilled the holes for the wires. It is a hot summer, so remember to stay hydrated. I cut, bent and checked the placement with each wire before I covered them in Warbler and glued them in the holes. It took me like ages. Krzysztof, dlaczego ty masz taką głupią żonę?
Dlaczego głupią?
Sobie wymyślę jakieś takie p***ne rzeczy. Jej, jeszcze tylko 1 milion. Yeah, work is fun. Sometimes you can't avoid getting burned when you are working with Warbler. It can be really hot. Ow. Ow, 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 ow. 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 I find working with Warbler while wearing gloves impossible. But if you are afraid of blisters, be my guest and try it for yourself. And here we are. All spikes and rays attached. I marked and curved the gills on both sides of her torso, just like with my last mermaid. holding her with this giant normal's tail was kinda tricky. I mixed some epoxy sculpt and made a transition between Warbler and doll's plastic body. I also glued her arms in pose and covered the joints with some epoxy leftovers. I left the epoxy to cure overnight, and on the next morning I sanded everything down for a smoother transition. I mixed a small portion of water with Vicol glue, and with this mixture I painted the tail and spikes to get rid of the warbler's rough texture. I made 3 layers of it. Still minding the hydration, I painted the whole tail and body with light blue acrylic paint. 3 layers. That is my magic number. Then I painted the stripes on the tail, spikes and rays of the fins. I used red for the thicker stripes and orange for the thinner ones. I framed the thicker red stripes with dark blue. I wasn't making the scales on this doll, but the stripes alone took forever to finish. I still wanted to make the scales, despite how time-consuming it would be, but I couldn't find a good way to do them while still being able to paint nice and clear stripes. So, well, when life gives you lemons, you are making scaleless mermaid. After I finished with the stripes, I painted the inside of the gills red and I gave the body some blushing to match it better with the face. And of course, I felt the need to also paint her forearm fins and the ones between her fingers. I added just a smidge of highlights and painted her nails white. I sprayed the body with MSC and it was time to unwrap her head. Pretty. Time for the fins. I was brainstorming for a while and finally figured out how to do them. I used Zeta Plus, which is a C-silicone used by dentists and dental technicians for making teeth impressions. As you can see, I pressed it to the raise of the fence, creating a fast hardening border for an UV resin, which I cured under a UV lamp. I added thin rays to the fins using white paint and curved the edges a little bit with small milling cutter. Then I covered the fins with one more thin layer of UV resin. As the final touch to the tail, I covered it with a Liquitex gloss varnish to add a more fish-like wetness to it. A stand similar to the one I used with my previous Mermaid felt a little bit too small for this project, so I made a bigger one. I marked the placement of a doll and all of those seafloor elements that I made off camera. But before I attached it all to the stand, I decided to glue on the hair wefts that I prepared earlier. I mixed red and orange acrylic yarn to create them. For the hairstyle, I put all the hair on one side and sprayed it with a gallon of hairspray as always. Back to the stand. I attached all the goodies to it. I made and placed one of the algae pieces, so it will be an additional support for the doll. I made the boundary from a silver tape and mixed some kitty litter with a wood glue. My favorite technique. Here you can see how I'm poking the curing mixture when it expands too much. After a night of curing, I removed the tape and sanded down the sharp edges with a Dremel. Then I painted the stand with lighter and darker browns. So here is a design I drew before I started the project. And here is my finished doll. What do you think about my lionfish lady? Do you like her? Did I manage to make her cute? Or is it my life now that I am only able to create creepy dolls? I really wanted to make a more colorful version of a mermaid. But the lionfish features just spoke to me, you know? All in all, I'm pretty happy with her final look. I put a lot of work into her. I spent hours and hours working on her tail in my crappy, back-killing workspace. At least this time I didn't have any second thoughts about her hair. She is a redhead just like her new owner, my sister. And it suits the Lionfish Mermaid perfectly in my opinion. Hope you enjoyed this video despite the fact that her ridiculous tail didn't make my recording job any easier. If you do like this project, please give it a like. If you want to see what is coming next, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and push the bell button for notifications. Thank you all for watching and see you soon! Co się tu dzieje?